Imagine spending years solving the deepest mysteries of human existence. You write a short, brilliant book and declare that you have completely solved all of the problems of philosophy. So, like anyone would do, you walk away to become a lonely school teacher in a remote mountain village. Then, a decade later, you realize you were completely wrong, so you return to the university, write a second book, and completely destroy your life's work, redefining logic and language all over again. This was the life of Ludwig Wittgenstein. He is widely considered one of the greatest philosophers of the 20th century, but he was also one of the most eccentric and intense thinkers to ever be. Born in Vienna in 1889, Ludwig was born into one of the wealthiest families in Europe, essentially the Austrian equivalent of the Rockefellers. But wealth didn't bring happiness. The family environment was intensely strict, and 3 of his 4 brothers tragically took their own lives. Ludwig struggled with his own severe depression his entire life. Originally trained to be an engineer, Wittgenstein became obsessed with the math behind propellers. That math led him to pursue an interest in philosophy, logic, and language. He moved to Cambridge to study under Bertrand Russell, the most famous logician of the era. When World War I broke out, Wittgenstein did something crazy. He volunteered for the front lines of the Austrian army. However, inside his military backpack, he wrote notes in a secret code. Those notes became his first masterpiece, the Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus. The Tractatus is a short, terrifyingly dense book of logic, but its core idea is beautiful. Wittgenstein introduced what we now call the picture theory of language. He argued that sentences are just 2D pictures of reality. Think about it like this. If I say the cat is on the mat, your brain instantly visualizes a cat on a mat. Language is a camera and its job is to snap photos of facts. Because of this, Wittgenstein came to a radical conclusion. If a sentence cannot form a logical picture of a physical fact in the real world, it is literal nonsense. For example, mathematical equations compared to unanswerable questions. This meant that most of the things philosophers had spent thousands of years arguing about, like ethics, religion, or the soul, could not be spoken about logically. You can't just snap a photo of goodness. Wittgenstein famously ended his book with "Whereof one cannot speak, thereof one must be silent." Believing he had successfully drawn a boundary around what human language could actually achieve, he quit philosophy and became an elementary school teacher. For nearly a decade, the academic world treated the Tractatus like a holy text, but Wittgenstein was miserable. He was a terrible school teacher. In fact, he was so intense that he would occasionally hit students who couldn't understand the math. He quit and became a gardener and built a house for his sister. But during these years, his brain kept working. Real life didn't fit his perfect little book anymore. He watched children play, he listened to people gossip in markets. He realized that human beings use words for millions of things that have absolutely nothing to do with taking pictures or logical facts. Example 1. If a mechanic yells wrench to his assistant, he isn't describing a factual picture of an object. He is issuing a command. He's playing a social game to get a specific reaction. In 1922, Wittgenstein realized the first theory was entirely wrong. He packed his bags and returned to Cambridge. He began writing his second great work, Philosophical Investigations, which was published after his death. In this book, he threw the camera metaphor out the window. Instead, he said language is a toolbox. Think about a hammer, a screwdriver, and a measuring tape. They all look different and all do completely different jobs. Words are the same way. We just don't use them to state facts. We use them to joke, comfort, insult, pray, flirt, and trick. He called these language games. Just like chess or soccer, every social context has its own set of rules. The word score means one thing in a football match, another thing on a maths test, and something completely different at a jazz bar. He argued that philosophical confusion happens when we take a word from one game and try to use it in another. He famously wrote that the goal of philosophy is simply to show the fly the way out of the bottle. Philosophy shouldn't build massive theories, it should just untie the knots in our thinking. Wittgenstein passed at the age of 62. His last words, "Tell them I've had a wonderful life." He taught us that the meaning of a word isn't something hidden deep inside it. The meaning of a word is simply how we use it together. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button and let us know in the comments what philosopher we should cover next.